No, we were super excited to be your first guest.
I know. We finally have our role models on for the first time.
I know,
episode
literally.
5. It took us forever.
Yeah, in every one of our like intros to each episode, we're like, oh, we interview role models, and then we just haven't interviewed anybody.
We haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
So now we're finally
you guys
doing it.
are the role models, right? That's
you
the
go.
point. That's how I see this whole thing. Is
Yeah.
that you're the role models. You
Yeah.
are trying to help the next generation. So this is what I'm all excited about this. It's going to happen.
I'm just going to minimize it.
Okay, so you guys went from Miami to Colorado. You guys had a stable job. You guys were PAs. So like talk about why you guys left Miami to come to Colorado and do something completely different.
I think there was definitely several aspects to the leaving of Miami and the pace of life, to leaving medicine and that pace of life, and to leaving the concept of go to school, get a degree, and work for somebody for the rest of your life. We were leaving a lot of things when we left Miami. And Colorado, just the state itself represents a lot of what we like, which is outdoor activity, being active, being healthy. But then the life itself that we plan to build in Colorado, it really opened the doors to what we intentionally wanted from life, which you can talk a lot about.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, it started a few years before our oldest graduated high school. I had kind of burned out. So I started in ER in New York City. It was highest level in the world probably, right? So it was a level one trauma center, Ivy League doctors, residency program. I think it was intense, but it was amazing. And then when I went to Miami to get away from the cold and the cost of living, eventually the cost of living in Miami seemed to have caught up, but then it just became really hot all the time. So eventually we did want to get out of there. And the timing of Milan graduating worked out. So 3 or 4 years before that, we started just studying business because that wasn't something we had ever learned. So started studying a lot of that.
And saving.
Saving
every penny.
Yeah,
that
trying
we could.
to prepare ourselves, because when this happened and we decided, all right, we're going to leave, put our lab coats down and put our uniforms on, right? And you know, back in then it was, we're going to leave, you know, emergency medicine to go teach kids karate.
Right.
Right. And so like,
Yeah, why would you do that?
most people could not understand
Right.
like why, right? Now, even though many of my peers maybe wanted out of medicine too, they saw the shift that was happening away from healthcare and things like that into how it became a mega business. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of other things. It was, for me, it was burnout. There's a lot of stuff. You know, 20 years in the emergency room is a lot. I felt a little sociopathic. Like when normal things would happen to people, I would struggle seeing the importance of it. You know, I'm like, I'm seeing the people's worst day of their life every single day.
Yeah.
And what's chaos to the fly is normal to the spider. And I felt like I was just living in the spider's world too long. And so we decided on Colorado because we wanted an active outdoor kind of lifestyle, and we had kind of gone between a couple of different places, but I really loved Colorado coming here back when I was younger, in my taekwondo days for the Olympic Training Center and things like that a lot. And so this kind of fit. And then her sister had moved out to Castle Rock around that year, a couple of years before that. And so we decided, all right, we'll come out this way. We looked within, you know, an hour or so of Castle Rock, and found Monument, found that there wasn't a jiu-jitsu school there. Mm-hmm. And we just burned our boats, meaning I did not renew my PA license. I just, either I win or we die. And that was it. There was no dying, there was only winning. And so I studied and did everything I could, asked every question I could, found every mentor I could, and just went all in. Within a year or two, I realized of like studying it, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to do this by myself. And so I had to see if she was obviously willing to risk it all and come with us and make that transition and, you know, be okay with that happening. There was a huge life shift in general, not just leaving medicine, but leaving where you're at, leaving what you know, all the comforts of life. So getting out to Colorado was a big thing, but then realizing like I'm going to need help. And so, you know, that first year or two was pretty hard to kind of figure out the delineation of what we each did. And she also was still working clinically as a PA for a little while when we were first here.
And
homeschooling and,
right.
You know, running the backside of the business. So it was a lot, but we figured it all out. And it ultimately, like, I don't know if you've ever arrived, right? Like, we're in this beautiful place, and we never really feel finished, So that's kind of a balance for us, is striving for more, but appreciating where we are.
The other day said grateful but never satisfied.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty
good.
sufficient for where we're always at.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You mentioned seeing people's worst day of their lives every single day, and I feel like in jiu-jitsu you see that, but it's in a different way. It's like, this is maybe my worst day, but I'm here to do something that's good for me. So do you want to talk about the difference between seeing people in the emergency room and then seeing people at jiu-jitsu changing their lives?
Yeah, so I think jiu-jitsu for me is now what idealize as healthcare, right? Like, you're healthy, you're taking care of yourself. Mental health, which is just one of those things that I think people don't talk about. And they talk about it a lot. I'm not saying people don't talk about it enough. There's definitely enough of that. But how do you fix it, right? Just talking about it is not always the way. And so you have to learn to deal with it, learn to manage it. And when you're putting these struggle situations like jiu-jitsu, they do multiple things. For one, they bond you to whoever you're doing this hard thing with very closely, right? Because not only are you sweating on each other, breathing, all your little, right? The hard parts you're doing together. Yeah. And so just like in the military, just like in any kind of fraternal bonding thing, right? This jiu-jitsu does that, right? So the mental health side, the physical health, ultimately for me, it's really just a side effect that works out, right? Pretty well for me. I don't do it on purpose for that reason, but it's a great, super awesome benefit, right? But then I can't do some other, say, CrossFit now that I'm old. I have to stick to jiu-jitsu. But I think the struggles become important in the mental side of when you're squashed under somebody and you feel oh, I'm going to die here. And you don't die, right? And you're oh, I can do harder things than I thought I could do, right? And then you just start building that confidence over time of I can survive more and more of what I thought I couldn't quite do. And so I think that confidence becomes real confidence in that way, because you are tested every time, every roll. Whereas a lot of other things are false. If I can break a board, yeah, it's awesome. I did something I couldn't do before, or I didn't think I could do, right? And this is why we do it for our belt promotions, even though we're a jiu-jitsu school primarily. But kicking and punching and doing forms, and I grew up that way, and it was awesome for what it was worth. But I don't think it's real enough for if it were to matter, if that makes sense. So the worst case scenario, the worst day of people's lives and things like that, you see them in jiu-jitsu for sure. And this is the beautiful thing is a couple of my buddies talk about this, where you get to see people's best day, their worst day, they're at their highest, their lowest. They're you really get to know people. And so probably 95+% of my friends are all jiu-jitsu folks.
But those people are going in, even if it's their worst day, to get better, to fix the problem.
100%. Well, because they know that's what works.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? We all use our thing as therapy, if you would, right? And I'm not promoting that's how people use it all the time, but it definitely helps. And there's things like Mission 22, right? We Defy, Adopt a Cop. All these things are, from those other bonding kind of scenarios of the military and police force and things like that. Having not just the physical role, but the psychological and the community and all that stuff that's built around jiu-jitsu. It really is just a room full of people that are willing to suck and try to get better over and over and over, and just be vulnerable in front of other people that also are trying not to suck as much.
I think the difference in the worst days in the ER, a lot of people come in and say something as simple as appendicitis. And this is happening to me. This is happening to me. I have no control, and now I am the victim. And then things that people self-inflict, obesity and high blood pressure, they still kind of have that mindset. Whereas when you're showing up to jiu-jitsu to get on the mats and train, you're choosing that hard for you. And it's not I'm the victim, this is happening to me, I have no control. And it's very empowering. You see that. You see it in the kids, you see it in the adults.
And I think it turns down the volume on all the other things we think of as difficult. Right? Mm-hmm. We think the bills are difficult. We think that, and they are, sure, life is hard for the most part, right? Buddha even says it's suffering, right? However, we need to turn that down. And by doing it, we have to do things that are exceptionally harder. And then everything else is oh, well, that's not so bad, right? At least life's not trying to literally choke me.
Yeah. Right. Your brain grows when you do hard things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So you guys mentioned that before you came to Colorado, you did a lot of studying. for the business. What does that look like? Does that look like networking or books? What was that for you guys?
So for me, I've started reading a long time ago, like voraciously after a divorce and bankruptcy and all that stuff. And I realized and I checked all the boxes that society had told me to check, right? Like, okay, I became a PA, and then I was a professor at a university. And then I had, all these things. I was like, oh, I checked all the boxes. And then all this happens. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I started reading back then. But when it comes to the business stuff, there were, I started with martial art business books, and there were only so many out there, right? This is actually how I got introduced to Bill Pottle, right? Shout out to Bill.
Shout out Bill Pottle.
Yeah, and Bitcoin. Ethereum, he's an Ethereum guy. But he wrote this book, Way of the Dojo. I read that. I read, Small Dojo, Big Profits. Is trying to, all the books that were out that I could find. There's lots and lots of them. And then I would watch every YouTube that was out there at the time. And of course, it's just like martial arts. You pick and choose kind of, I'm not going to do that. I am going to do that. And now the beautiful thing is some people have systems and they're already built for you and you can kind of implement them. The challenge is, filtering through stuff that is, unethical that people do just because it's a business they try to do. And we're very mindful of making sure that never happened,
What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, can you talk about that?
Okay. You want
like belt factories?
Yeah.
Yeah, so several martial arts schools, they call them McDojos or belt factories. And it really is just money.
An underqualified person being promoted. And jiu-jitsu is really one of the last holdouts on meritocracy. All right. And there are, martial arts schools out there, karate, taekwondo, all that some of them are high standard, right? So we just wanted to make sure that wasn't going to be the case and that we weren't going to, take advantage of any of the situation that was there. And the biggest thing for me was to make sure there wasn't false confidence. It was, worthwhile curriculum, things like that.
For sure. You guys also talked about delineating those roles when you guys started the business together. Mm-hmm. And I think when a lot of people think of like you and your spouse going into a business together, that's like a scary thought for a lot of people, right? So how did you guys split those roles and what did that look like at the start?
I think the hardest part was the beginning, because he had done all the research and the work and I hadn't. Mm-hmm. I was still just being mom and working PA. So I wasn't studying the business. I was learning the software, that aspect of it. And so leading up to opening the business, that was my only background. That was my only knowledge, especially not being in martial arts. And then once we actually opened, that's probably where it took about a year and a half for us to really feel settled and confident in what we were good at. And it really just took trial and error. It took stepping on toes and checking and balancing each other to find what we were both supposed to be doing that made the business the best.
Did that naturally happen, or was that communication between you guys like, hey, this is working, this isn't working? What did that mean?
There was some battles. Yeah, there was definitely some battles. I think maybe my perspective was what the parents were seeing that he couldn't see. Was where I had input, but he had a reason for doing things the way I was doing. And so that took about a year and a half to iron out, right?
Why are you hitting kids with a paddle? like, this has to be done.
You should have seen that parent's face.
Like, it doesn't hurt, but it's important. Like, it's so out of people's norm, Yeah. I think of it this way. I kind of labeled these as like she has kind of 3 M's and I have 3 M's, if you were, right? Now, with those M's, I do macro, she does micro stuff, right? Like, and not micro as in small, but like all the details, right? I'm the big picture kind of thing. So I do what I think of as like Matt's media, like so social media and marketing, right? So I do those 3 M's. She would do things like memberships, right? So she does the back end stuff, the management, so managing the team essentially, and then the money, right? So she has to manage and pay the bills and do all the stuff on that end. So this is kind of what ended up being our delineation. So at first we're like, all right, I knew the mats and I had studied the stuff at first that she had. And so I was trying to enforce some of those kind of things. And then she's like, I need you to get out of the way or show me, you know what I mean? Right. And so I was still, as a new owner of any kind, trying to do all the things, and we both kind of were that way. And so we eventually had to just delegate a little bit of some of those to each other. And then we figured out, like, obviously she's much better at talking on the phone and speaking to people and those kind of things up front. And I'm best suited for the mats,
Yeah. So when you guys first opened, and a little background, like we started in their gym when they first opened, so we saw like you guys changing the systems as you went throughout the years. And when we first started, it was probably half taekwondo, half jiu-jitsu. So what
Closer
made you switch? And now we do mostly jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know if I delineated it in terms of half or 50%.
Right.
Now it's definitely like 90% jiu-jitsu. Because of the way the curriculum is built, it's easier to see the math on how that is. Back then, I realized pretty quickly that even though I had spent my entire life training, I didn't know what I was doing or how to teach kids, especially. And so I was trying to teach everything, which ultimately results in teaching nothing. Some of you guys got a big bonus from it, right?
For sure.
But
Maya, you got to bring the puppy in frame just for like 2 seconds. Bring her over here.
Do you want me to hold her?
Right.
Just so they can see.
Yeah.
Look how cute.
That's the thumbnail right there. We're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, so teaching all the things sometimes ultimately results in teaching nothing to most of them. And so I had, a color stripe for each thing. I had 6 stripes instead of 4, and I was doing all this stuff. But then, some of the things I found out is the little heroes, for instance, if I would promote them, a year for a 4-year-old is eternity, right? So if I'm to wait a year for a belt, it's an eternity. So we kind of came up with that little white belt colored thing that helps them. So then by the time they're 6, they can actually get through that system, in 6 months to a year for each of those little sections. And it works out pretty nicely.
Right.
So we changed it more to jiu-jitsu because I also realized too, it is the harder thing to teach, to be honest, right? It's much easier to teach striking to a room of 30 kids than it is jiu-jitsu. Like, you need a team to do that. So I changed because we were able to build a team is one thing. I saw the results of what was happening as we were going. It wasn't kind of what I envisioned, and I was over teaching a lot of the things. I remember even like the difficulty showing you guys, like, we're not dumbing it down, we're simplifying it, right? Like, it was kind of that, like, we needed this, what is the core of what we're trying to get done? And it's bully proofing for the most part. And, and so I think it just whittled it down to like, what are the most important things?
Right.
And then, I learned a lot more about like child psychology and things as we go. And so I'm like, okay, they need some sort of remembering the position. They have a familiarity with it, but they may not know it, but they've seen it before. So 6 months ago, they saw it, or a year ago, they saw it. And so now they see it again, and they're like, oh, I know this one, or I know it a little bit better. And so we can build those around their core fundamentals, right? This is ultimately like what wins in fights, or, is the best kind of jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, in probably any sport at all, is fundamentals over and over.
You guys also do word of the week, and I think that's pretty unique compared to other gyms. So can you talk about that?
Do you want to start with that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I think that when parents sign their kiddos up for an activity, they're looking for a couple things. They're looking for a physical outlet, which jiu-jitsu 100% is. But what jiu-jitsu also adds is that Bushido code concept, which is where we incorporate the word of the week. And from a parental perspective, I love that, because these kiddos look up to their coaches like they look up to nobody else. A parent can talk all about courage or integrity or self-discipline, and it just doesn't hit the mark when coach says, hey, we're gonna have self-discipline, or we're gonna talk about what this means. That hits the mark. And for those kids to hear it from you guys, see you exemplify it, and then go home and try to do the same, that's life-changing. And a kiddo who, soccer was my sport, loved it. It was phenomenal for me. We never talked about anything like that. There was definitely concepts of teamwork and being a good teammate, but there was no integrity that we spoke about each practice. And so I think that extra layer of teaching these kids, really the parents appreciate so much, and it makes a huge impact on those kids.
Yeah. Obviously, I agree with all that. Yeah. I think that two things. One, it is what we're supposed to be doing when we're teaching something so dangerous, right? Is we need to wrap it around an ethical code, right? And the Bushido code fits. So as much as I love boxing and wrestling, if you've ever been in those rooms, they don't really prioritize that stuff. So now they're teaching people how to fight, like legitimately fight, and not telling them when and why and how they should be using this stuff. And so I want to make sure that we have that kind of the good part of the samurai code, if you would. But also it gives the second part is it gives the parents an excuse to talk about the thing, right? So on the car ride home or at dinner or whatever it is, they have a chance now to like, hey, what'd you talk about in Word of the Week? Oh, confidence. Oh, what do you think? And then the parent can kind of deep dive into how much they actually know about this word, right? And does it fit what the household's culture might be and what the household belief might be? And you can use that to kind of, reinforce what your own things might be around it. But like she said, sometimes, the kids aren't there to listen to the parents. And so the parents can use us as a, hey, would coach like to see this happen or whatever? And I think it fits our brand, right? Yeah. Of the peaceful warrior, of the superhero logo, of the, right? Like, hey, Superman doesn't rob banks and hurt people because he can, right? With great power comes great responsibility. All those kind of things. The superhero model fits that peaceful warrior kind of mantra that we're after. And then the Word of the Week fits it.
I think that's a good segue into talk about your logo, the name, and Peaceful Warrior. What is that altogether? That's your branding. So why did you choose all those? What does it mean?
Yes, it's from me.
Yeah, I think when we were going through names, Academy, we like the intellectual aspect of that word. The logo, yeah, that's all you. Peaceful Warrior is all you too.
Yeah, the Academy, she's exactly right again. I didn't want it to be all the time called a gym because it's not exactly a gym, right? Yes, you go work out, but that's not what we're doing, right? An academy, you go for a lot of reasons, right? But mostly learning, right? And this is why we're there, is to learn, right? And so I felt like the Academy of Martial Arts, because we had multiple martial arts we were trying to share with people, I thought that it fit pretty well. Now, the branding part, the Monument Jiu-Jitsu fit the cult, the little Google search and all that stuff. Like, this is ultimately why that came about. So we kind of dual named, which isn't ideal, but it works, right? Because now we can have the judo, we can have the other
And I think Monument Jiu-Jitsu came about naturally.
Yeah.
A little bit later.
It did, yeah.
It the same concept of why we don't offer as much Taekwondo or even really advertise that we offer it. It really delineated us from any other martial arts school in the area. And people feel pride in saying, well, it's Monument Jiu-Jitsu. It's my town. It's my jiu-jitsu school. And that came quite naturally. I don't think it was an intentional, we're going to kind of call ourselves this.
Right.
And now people have really gravitated towards that, and I like it.
Yeah, I do too. And I think they both fit us. And I think it's right. Now, we first started, we're in Miami, and so we're like, oh, Denver. Somewhere in Denver, we're going to move that way, right? And so we bought the website denvermartialarts.com, right? And I had it for a while, and then when you realize Monument's not Denver, and they don't even think it's, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Even in Miami, it would be too, right? But it's the same kind of thing. So the Monument Jiu-Jitsu became our website and kind of just fit the branding that we were looking. The logo started because, my nickname coming up in Jiu-Jitsu was Captain America, because when I was in Miami, I had just finished being on the team for the U.S. for Taekwondo. And so I had all this Team USA stuff that I would wear. And I'm in Miami, so it's a heavily Spanish population. And so this Team USA thing, I guess they started calling me that. I was pretty lucky. Sometimes people don't like their nicknames in Jiu-Jitsu.
It's a whole other podcast.
And so that happened. And then when I was deciding on a logo, I obviously couldn't use it exactly. And so I have this kind of thing. And when people see it, they're like, oh, it's Captain America. But if you look at Captain America, you look at Avengers, and then you look at that, you're like, oh yeah, it's different. And so I did actually have a little skiff with Disney and Marvel and over that we can use this because it's not theirs. Yeah. We did kind of remodel it a little bit to add the belt lately and kind of rebranding a little bit. But the idea there is, so it started from the Captain America ideal and that peaceful warrior. The peaceful warrior thing is a big deal for me because that quote that says it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And so you want to be prepared and not need it rather than need it and not have it, So when we talk about the logo itself, the middle center star, if you would, 5-pointed star is the people you surround yourself with are who you are. So the 5 people you surround yourself essentially is you, right? And so I'm very particular about who those people are, the influence they have in my life, things like that. And I make sure that they're parts of those people that I want to embody or implement and get better at myself. The blue circle around that, if you would, is, all of my friends and family and people like that share good videos or here's a good book or, that I enjoy their company, all those kind of there's, awesome, my friends, right? The white circle are essentially neutral, right? So people come and go in our life and we have to interact with the person at the grocery store or maybe a short time we have to interact with somebody and then they go on about their life and our paths intersect for a short time. And then the red circle are essentially people that are toxic, right? And so for me, it's kind of a fine line, but once it happens, I have to hold the line because for my own self, worth and mental health, all that stuff, I just don't have the bandwidth to chase down all the that everybody might want to share with me. And so I used to joke, if people post 2 negative things on Facebook, I just unfriend them. I just don't want to accidentally wake up and read their stuff, And then my second part of that is, if you post pictures of your ugly kid, I'm going to unfriend you too. So this is why I'm not friends with my biological mom.
Cut that out.
We're keeping that in.
No.
Keeping that in.
Your kid's ugly.
It's definitely red circle.
Anyway, it's an important factor that I have to use to protect myself in that way, just for bandwidth's sake, if nothing else. Right? I have so much energy for so much of the day and the people I need to spend the time with, and I do put forth a good amount of effort. If we're going to go down that, but once it's too negative, and I notice that's just their pattern, it's okay. I wouldn't want to be in their head all day.
Right.
So you guys kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but a big focus for us is the coaching side, right? And this is something that we're super passionate about. So can you talk a little bit about the difference between being a good technician in whatever field and being a good coach? Since you've been teaching coaching jiu-jitsu for a long time, you've been also coaching CrossFit, right? From your guys' perspective, what's the difference between being good at the skill and being good at teaching?
I'll let you start with that one. That's a good one.
So I think it's important to meet someone where they're at. Anytime you're coaching kids to adults, if you have unrealistic expectations or if you're not pushing them hard enough, there's that gap. And as a coach, you are their guide to close that gap. And I think that it's really important to not base your coaching on your own skill, your own technique, your own preferences, your own accolades. You are there to coach that person, and you have to see that person for who they are, what they can do, and what they want to be, right? You may have a super talented kiddo, but they have zero interest in competing. Mm-hmm. And you would not really be doing your job as a coach very well if you're pushing them to compete. So I think that it's mostly important with the connection aspect. Learn your person, get to know them. Who are they? What pushes them? What shuts them down? Because that's huge too. And that's where you become successful as a coach.
Yeah. I think I've seen in my career a lot of people that were tremendous athletes that were not great coaches, and vice versa, right? And you guys probably know plenty. They are completely separate skill sets. Now, if you're a good athlete and maybe you weren't like initially super talented, you may have had to build the skill, which then to me is much like building the skill of coaching, right? So there are patterns you can copy. There are people you can replicate. it does come with a balance of, you're in a role to essentially make people do the stuff they don't want to do so that they can become the people they want to become, or accomplish the things they want to accomplish that they know, and that they may even doubt themselves, but right? And you've seen enough times to where that can happen. Now, for me, the hard part came when, let's say when I was like a purple belt, my body started doing a lot of jiu-jitsu for me. Right. And I would like subvert many seconds by just my body knowing what to do. And so I think when I started teaching as a black belt, especially, I realized like, why are they terrible at this? And it was because my coaching was terrible. Like my body would drop my hip and I wouldn't say to drop your hip. And you know what I mean? And I would focus on the arms and legs or the head position or the whatever, like the gross. And I'm like, oh, there's a gross piece in here that my body's doing that I'm not thinking about. And so when I first started teaching, this is actually why I enjoy having the lower belts teach the very beginners, right? The people that are closer to the beginning of it, because essentially I've forgotten a lot of what that's like, And, I can remind and see and, re-notice all that stuff, but it's sometimes it's hard. And so, for me, in my body, fundamental teaching is like blue belt level, right? Like it's hard for me to like go all the way back,
right?
But I think it's important, And so coaching for me then becomes about modeling a behavior, not just like showing moves, right? Like your brand is kind of who you are too. And so the coach is an important role in all of those things, obviously.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. It kind of goes back to the word of the week. You guys have young, lower belt, teenage coaches, and I'm not sure a lot of gyms have that. And I think it's important that they do because, like you said, the kids can look up to their coach who's closer to their age, and I think that's really important. So can you talk about why that's important? And then I think that also ties into the fact that they were just kids or they were just in that spot. So why did you guys choose to do that, and how did that come about?
To me, there's two main reasons to having these younger coaches on the mats. One is they are our future coaches. They're going to be the future yous. If they continue showing up, learning the processes, learning the systems, learning how to communicate with the kids, they are ultimately getting free training to then be a hireable coach. And so it creates less of a transition period for, oh, you're a great concept for a coach, let us train you. No, we've been training you for 3 years because you've been in this LIT program, you've been having these higher level conversations, you've been learning how to project your voice and how to talk to the kids, and you're not nervous on the mats in front of the parents. Great, now you're a hireable coach already. And then the other aspect is for the kiddos themselves. You see these kids who enroll in LIT just become more confident and better public speakers and very proud of the impact that they get to have on the younger belts and the smaller kiddos in the little classes. And that's cool to see from them and their parents' perspective.
Can you explain what LIT is?
Yeah, so LIT is a leadership and training program that we started, and they have to apply. They have to fill out, it's like a 3-page application. They have to get letters of recommendation. And this is for anyone 9 and up. And what it is they're signing up for a program where they attend a class on Saturdays with just Professor Tom, and it's just the LITs. And I'll let you go into what you teach during that time, but their role during the week is to help with a class that's an age group or 2 younger than them. And it gives them an opportunity to help teach a move or help coach kiddos while they're grappling, and be on those mats as a role model for the younger kids. And I feel like it's a program that if more kiddos jumped into, the parents would see the improvement. Not so much in their jiu-jitsu, that is a secondary benefit. Because as you learn to teach things, you actually get better at them. But the primary benefit is their confidence, is their public speaking, is their ability to be a leader to peers and a little bit younger kiddos.
Yeah, she nailed it. I think the only thing I would add is essentially it's the word of the week in action, right? they have to practice the word of the week. And so all those things, we make them teach a little group of other kids, and they have to, and we talk personal development stuff. Like, people pay billions of dollars a year, right, throughout America to go through personal development courses and blah, blah, blah. And so we incorporate all this in this teaching. So on top of just the word of the week for all the kids and, taking 10 minutes to chat that up, this is, a class primarily for them to actually try these things out, to actually speak and see how hard it might be to actually, put a move into 3 steps and, articulate it in an announced voice and without yelling, and how do you project your voice and all these things. And then the parents then ultimately see the confidence that comes with it pretty quickly. And so for us, this is just tiers of development for me, right? Building the bench all the way down.
How do you incorporate personal development into your life outside of business? And how does that impact the business?
Yeah, I think it's what we consume. So when I say consume, what we look at, what we listen to, and what we put in our bodies. And it's always very intentional. So the books we read are either business-minded, financial, or growth mindset. The podcasts we listen to, science-based.
Like this one?
Yeah.
Shout out.
Right, they're science-based. They're about doing the hard thing in life to make your one life your best life. And the food we eat, that's kind of my contribution to what we're consuming. We're very intentional with it, all of it. And we have realized so quickly over the years, since we've been really focusing on it, that our academy, our school, our business, our parenting, our leading, our coaching can only be as good as we are as individuals. And so we really do dedicate a lot of time each day to that, but we enjoy it. We really, really enjoy it. It's fun. It's fun to listen to a podcast together in the sauna. It's fun to listen to it and then send it and be like, hey, I really like this. I think you should listen to it. We're always checking out new books and what to read there. And it is trickled over to our kids, when we talk about stoicism. They're like, that's just a normal conversation in our house.
That's amazing.
That's so cool.
It's baffling, right? There was no talks of stoicism in my house growing up. And so I think that in the last, I'd say 3 years, that has been really intentional and a huge focus because we like it, and the academy has just benefited greatly, and then the coaches have benefited, and then the members, and it has just become this tribe of people who are doing the hard thing and improving themselves, and that's been fun.
I think at the academy in jiu-jitsu, it calls to people that want to improve themselves, right? Like, for some reason, you're willing to be vulnerable and not be great at something and come back again and again and again, right? And so that's ultimately our people, right? The people that are willing to do the hard thing and try it again and not be great at it. Do your best, try again, So we live it because not just that it's our brand, but we've, I think, discovered that all the things we chase down and try to get better at, and it's just made us and it better overall, right? So this is a saying I say quite a bit, but my dad told me, if you reach for the stars and you miss, you end up on top of the mountain. And look where we are, right?
Very much on top of the mountain.
Literally.
Let's do a quick plug-in.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go.
We're at Tom and Christa's Airbnb out here in Cripple Creek. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's called Utopia, right? So if you guys
see the background, it's just gorgeous.
It's absolutely beautiful. So if you guys are interested, the link will be in the description.
Yeah, should do a little panorama.
We'll do a panorama afterwards. We'll cut it in here.
Yeah.
It's too pretty
amazing.
outside.
Yeah. So, but if you reach for the mountaintop, you may end up in the valley. And so I really, people will say, set reasonable goals, right? Something you can achieve, right? And I just don't buy into it. I'm like, if I have the confidence, I'm going to try for the big one, right? I'm going to try for the big prize. Because then if I don't get it, I get the medium prize. Okay, fine. But then over time, I'm going to get better at the game. I'm going to start getting the big prize.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's it. Like, we just figured a way to incorporate all of these things we know are right for ourselves and for our family into our daily habits, right? And there's plenty of books, Atomic Habits, all these things that we just fit them into our day. And then we combine things, right? Like she talks about like our one life and when we do our life scores, for instance, we're like, okay, this part of my life, relationships with my kids, relationship with my spouse, friends, health, fitness, nutrition, business, whatever your sections are. We found a way to put, say, our friendships into our health and fitness workouts, right? But for our sake, it's our business also, So we're combining all these things and fitting them together because we understand it is a lot to try and like live healthy and eat right and work out all the time and still keep your cool and have a good conversation and not lose your...
What are those daily habits? What are those things that you do every single day that people need to be doing to better their one life?
They should do whatever they want.
What do you guys do?
I do feel like we have the ability, therefore we have the duty to really push ourselves. Because anytime we push ourselves, so many other people benefit. And so I can't stop pushing myself just because I'm like, that's good enough. Because then nobody else gets to benefit. So daily habits. I'm a get up early kind of gal. He's a get up a little later, but not super late.
Daily habits, go.
Train every day.
Tell them your schedule. What's the normal?
Get up at 6 and go train.
Until?
Depends on the day, but if I'm training and coaching, I'm done by about 8:30 or 9:30. And then it's a matter of what needs to be done that day.
Well, no, then we come home, then you sauna.
Yeah.
So oftentimes I'll go to jiu-jitsu in the morning and then come back, we'll sauna a lot of times together in the morning.
The intent of training early is paying yourself first. If I don't go early, the day will consume and I won't have time. Anything else will fill it in, and it is what it is. And then sauna is a nice little end to that, a little 20-minute, hey, how was your morning? What's the day going to look like today? A little touch in on like if there's something weighing heavy on our minds or our souls that we need to chat about, or a parenting topic. That's kind of where we sit with that for a minute. And then it's go. It's eat, which is usually a pretty high protein meal that's been prepped and ready to go. And then it's a matter of homeschooling, getting business work done, working on marketing, working on team trainings, planning future events that we're getting ready for. And then it's usually you heading in, and then I am mom and picking up from school and taking to their activities and things like that. But the daily habits are just consistent discipline. That's all it is. And it's easy now.
I was going to say it's early January, so a lot of people are setting resolutions. They're setting these big goals, and they don't know what that looks like daily. So how do you keep up with those daily habits if you have like, I want to lose weight?
Right.
That daily habit is maybe, eating healthy, working out, things like that. But what does that discipline look like? Is that systems? Is that just willpower? Like, what does that look like?
Even as disciplined as I am to get up and go train, I still set my clothes out every night. Just one other reason to not have to think of another excuse in the morning. And not that I fight myself, but sometimes, very rarely, I think we battle with ourselves of, I don't want to go. And then that's the time I'm like, okay, you're going. So there's a little bit of an edge there, right? You have to hold yourself accountable. Whoever that voice is in your head that's saying, no, maybe not today, we'll take it off today. You name it, and like when Ariana was learning to snowboard and she would have these doubts and these fears, we would name these emotions and dress them up as goofy monsters with googly eyeballs and tutus and crazy hair, and then we'd kick them out. And then we'd go snowboard. And so as an adult, you have to do something somewhat similar. Whether you do the googly-eyed monster or not is up to you, but it worked for a 5-year-old. I think...
Mine's name's a curse word.
I know it is.
As in everything in life, your why. What is your why? And if your why is strong enough, all of it falls into place. You do need to set yourself up for success. We've talked about environment a lot with our coaches. If your environment is not setting you up for success, change your environment. Your thoughts. So your thoughts are also really impacted by who you're surrounded by, what you listen to. I'm so sensitive to negativity that the moment it comes out, it's like cringe for me. Needles on nails on the chalkboard. It's awful. I hate it. So creating that very clear and pure environment for yourself, to be clear with your why, to set your habits based off of that why is really, really important. Knowing yourself. So if you know you don't like to get up early, or you're going to come up with all the excuses, maybe you don't train in the morning, right? Maybe you're an afternoon person to train. So knowing yourself, knowing where you're going to succeed, knowing where you may fail, and working around that. Meal prep is huge, right? Like, that's just a non-negotiable for us, mostly because of our schedule. But it just plays into it, really helps eat healthy all week.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if people talk about discipline, typically it's the 20 minutes you're in the grocery store, you need discipline, right? Just don't buy the stuff.
Don't grocery shop hungry.
Don't grocery shop hungry. Don't go into the middle of the aisles or whatever. So there are times when you need minimal discipline or maximal discipline for a minimal amount of time. But the other is, setting yourself up in your environment. And so if the junk food's not in your house, you're less likely to eat it, right? If you have something you can do that's right there, like a couple weights, maybe, right? You have less excuse, right? So trying to set yourself up for success. And I think the other two things here are gap and gain type culture mentality, right? Of like, I didn't do my best today, right? Right? So tomorrow, reset. So I know a lot of people set resolutions, New Year type thing, but for me, it's every day. If I messed up yesterday or messed up today, let's start again right now. Or tomorrow, I start this again. And I just repeatedly allow that wasn't my best, I'm gonna try again. Rather than, I'm gonna have to wait till next year, right? It's a new day, start now. So I kind of take that approach. It does come down to when you're building new habits, a book I highly recommend, Atomic Habits, right? James Clear talking about just these small little windows. You new to the gym, just show up and then go home. And then, you know what I mean? And when you're there, maybe you wanted 2 minutes, right? Next time. And then, okay, you do 2 sets, whatever that looks like for you. So setting those small habits that kind of build on themselves, and you start seeing changes. And because, at first it just hurts and it's inconvenient and it doesn't feel good. And you're like, why? Because this instant gratification type thing is what a lot of people are after. And we all fall habit to that, right? We all fall like, I'd love to have that one marshmallow now, right? So if we can put off a little bit of that, and I think, again, going back to jujitsu kind of normalizes that thing a little bit, right? You're like, there are no stripes or belts that are just going to come flying your way free. You have to earn every step.
And I think the science that they have been doing recently on the benefits of exercise, it's amazing how wonderful it is for so many things: longevity, anxiety, depression, your cardiovascular health, what muscle mass means, especially for women and their longevity. I guess that's my brain though, so I really feed into that and I really enjoy. But if it's anything else, like, man, it just squeezes the happy molecules out of your muscles, right?
Gives you more muscles to hide those emotions.
Yeah. And I think being a mom, and being a mom of girls especially, has really changed the way I see my body and the way I want my body to work and the way I want other people to see me. And I think that's been just huge for me. I do not train to lose weight. I do not train because I have to. I train because I love it. I train because I need to be strong enough to carry him up the stairs sometimes. If you come up
Not
with...
because.
It's happening.
Guys, I'm strong.
Because I'm hurt.
I have muscles too, you guys, I promise.
So I think that, gosh, they've shown that the positive reinforcement for habit building or habit correction or behavior correction is, I can't remember the percentage, but it's significantly higher, like 80% higher than negative reinforcement. So if in your head you're thinking, I have to go work out because of these ABC negative reasons, that's not going to help you. You get to go work out for these ABC positive reasons. And that is such a change in the mindset.
Yeah, get to versus have to.
Yeah.
It seems trite. It seems like, but if you just tell your brain that enough times, it starts to believe it, right? And I saw a comedian recently. He said something like, my therapist reminded me, or he prescribed me gratitude. And he's like, so if I just tell my brain think about it this way. Oh, that works. Like, and oftentimes it's that, right? Just shifting our mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys weave personal development in your trainings with coaches and with each other and in your businesses, which I don't think is normal. Can you talk about why you do that? And
why is it such a priority for you guys?
right.
Well, I think that is the goal. Ultimately, jiu-jitsu, whatever we're doing, anything we're doing, personal development, right? Because we only have maybe 100 years, right? Memento mori, right? So we're going to die. And we're on a small little rock floating in space, right? And we think we're all important. Then you get up here and you're like, oh, like we're really insignificant comparatively. And so does it matter if they think this or they think that? I think it makes life easier, right? And so the more we've gone through it ourselves, we've discovered how powerful it becomes just framing the way you see the world, the lens you're looking at the world through. And it becomes magnetic. People want to be around that energy, I think, and just like she said about negative people, it's like repelling, right? And especially for people that don't want to be that way or aren't that way, right? And so I think people understand this is our ultimate goal, is to just be better people, And so it's not to teach, it is to teach jiu-jitsu, but that's really the point.
Right. So if you put it into perspective, he could teach you the most amazing armbar move, right? Okay, you get to use that maybe while you're training, which is maybe an hour a day, 4 days a week. If he can teach you to be impeccable with your word, your communication skills skyrocket, and that's all day, every day. And that's communication with yourself, that's communication with your spouse, that's communication with everybody. And so we, I think, have flipped our concept of what we're teaching. Yes, he is teaching jiu-jitsu, no doubt, but much bigger picture, we are teaching everybody that we come into contact with who is willing to learn and wants to learn how to be their best self. And that's something that goes on forever and ever. You can quit jiu-jitsu, you can stop coming to the academy, but if we've taught you or made you feel better about yourself in any way, then go. Yeah.
Can you guys talk about some of your biggest challenges while running your businesses, and then like the mindset during that and how you overcame it?
Yeah, you primed us well. So a big challenge for me was probably about 1.5 years in. And we were, kind of trying to figure out our delineation of roles in that. And at the same time, we kind of hit a 150 number, right? 150 students. And societies can have essentially one leader for 150 people, right? It's pretty well documented in a lot of different cultures and societies and things that happen. And so when we got there, I didn't want to overbuild that because I wasn't ready with the team yet and things like that. And so when it comes to business, one way is, they fail in two main ways. One is you don't grow fast enough, and the other is you grow too fast, right? And so I didn't want to grow too fast where I didn't provide the quality. But it required so much of my time and effort and energy, and that I was already burning out. I was fatigued. I was tired, and I wasn't seeing the why as clearly, right? Because of my fatigue. And so for a good few months, it was difficult, just in my own head, not outside. But I could tell, people could tell, right, that I wasn't the same enthusiastic teacher and all that stuff. So I struggled for a couple months there because, I had, up until that point, I had chased a number. I'm like, I'm going to get to this number, right? And I got to that number and I'm like, well, now what?
What do I do?
Right? And so it happens a lot with me when I'm chasing these big goals. I'm like, I get there and I'm like, I got it. I'm on the top. And I look around, I'm like, well, now what do I do? Like, what mountain do I chase now? And so that kind of happens, like it many times in my life this has happened. And that was one of them where I got to that number and had forgotten to like what was actually the real reason, the purpose, the point of the whole thing, wasn't to get to that number. So that was one for me personally.
Yeah, and that was a hard one because
it affected a lot of people.
Everything, yeah. And
because I was in a funk after all that. I was like, what's happening?
If human connection had been the primary focus, I think we would have avoided it. But you have to go through that to reframe and re-remember. And for the long term, say, oh, okay, it's not the number, it's the people. Yeah.
So you guys were just talking about negativity and what that does to you. And I love how you guys change like challenges to be something you get to learn from.
Yeah.
How did you guys see a mental difference when you moved from Miami to Colorado, being around negativity and then being around positivity? Did you guys see a difference yourselves?
Yeah, the ER is definitely not a positive place. We did speak briefly, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, about the things we miss from being an ER provider. And one of the things was the team. And being a PA, you had the ability to make those nurses feel really powerful and really empowered and listened to. And that was a great position to be in. And so there was a positive aspect there. But in general, the culture in Miami is not a happy place. It's very intense. It's very me. Not great. I would say that when we moved to Colorado, we knew that we wanted the academy to be people's happy place. We weren't very sure how to exactly do that, though, right? And it's taken you a lot of effort and time and repeated learnings on how to be that open and welcoming comfort for people, right? So, right, he's in this really tough spot where he's the black belt. He's supposed to be the toughest guy in the room, but he also has to be the softest, most welcoming guy in the room. And that's tough.
Yeah.
And that's not a very comfortable position for him to be. And it, I think, though, is very important. And he's learning that. And luckily the members are learning that too, that he can be that for them and taking advantage of that. So I think until we embodied positivity and until we embodied and fully lived and committed to this specific mindset and continuously developing ourselves as a person, that it just naturally happened. Because like he said, it's gravitational. When he became that better person, not jujitsu, anything like that, but just himself and how he communicated and how he connected with people, it really just rippled.
Negative people suck.
It's true.
No, it wasn't like it was, I don't know. When we moved here, when you do anything, right? Like I said, you can choose a day and like, I want to be better today, from now on, starting today. And so when you move to a new place, you can completely reinvent yourself if you want, right? And so I had mentioned being in the Navy before and in the emergency room, you become a little sociopathic. You become a little, right? And so cursing was like a normal conversational piece for me. And it still comes back when I'm in a group of adults and things, but I try to be more aware because I spend a lot more time around kids now and things like that. But you can always kind of just decide. And so for us, it was, all right, what we put in comes out. And so we're just very, very mindful of what we consume, what we allow to be around us, whether it's people or, we try not to doom scroll too much, and instead use it for a chance and opportunity to learn something new, right? I don't know how much time we have left in life, but it's finite, right? And so I want to know, what is the capacity of this thing? Right? Physically, mentally, like what can it do, right? Whatever this avatar I got going on, right? Like what can it do? And so that's what I'm after.
That is something that we don't really like the word potential. We talk about your max capacity because each day your max capacity is different. But in general, yes, it is this wonder of how much can this body do? How much can this mind learn? How much impact can go out? And so you had mentioned something you said to Daniel. I forget exactly. It was you need to do well so that you can do good. Mm-hmm. And that's really where we are at.
It's your responsibility to do well so that you can do good.
And when we say do well, that means financially, that means learning, that means connecting. so that we can do good in all those areas for anyone we come into contact with. Okay.
Can we do a quick kind of speed run? I'm going to ask you guys to give your best advice to different groups of people.
Okay.
Is it cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Best advice for somebody in a rut, somebody who's really struggling. They can't seem to get out of the place that they're in.
Pick a book.
So you want me to? I have book ideas. I think books like A New Earth or The Power of Now sometimes forces you back into the moment to realize, like, I'm not hungry, I'm not thirsty, I'm not hurting. Like, it's the story we're often telling ourselves we're in a rut, right? And so those stories get put on replay. Mm-hmm. And so we just play those stories, and then we believe that stuff, and then that we go out into the world acting as if that's real. Mm. And so we need some other input. And so the books oftentimes is a way to do that. My second thing of that is some sort of workout, right? And it sounds, again, like an easy cop-out, right? But it does. It squeezes out all those happy molecules, she says, right? And it hides all those nasty emotions in your muscles, right? And so you can get rid of it. I mean, there's a lot of that with working out and just input.
Yeah. I think nature.
Yeah.
Nature. Not everyone feels that way, but I do think nature has this power to really check you and put you back into where.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I would say, find a book, whether it's something specific you're struggling with, find a book that helps with that, and then.
I can give lots of recommendations.
Yeah. And then get outside, move your body. Yeah.
Best advice for the young generation.
Buy Bitcoin.
I knew you were going to say
I knew it. Besides buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, so I guess like also the place we're coming from on that is like, I think this generation has some interesting challenges coming up for us, right? Because the housing market is really different. I think the job market is also difficult.
There's a mindset or trend to, I'm just going to say it, to talk about trauma.
Okay. Yes. So focus on self-awareness. And I don't think that you can really focus on self-awareness when you are surrounded by those who are on the same level as you. And so put yourself in rooms with people who are smarter, who are more wealthy, who are more fit. Be the lowest man on the totem pole in every room you are in. That way you only go up. And so I think that, the younger generation, figure out who you are, not in the space of your peers. Figure out who you want to be when you are surrounded by people who have done things that maybe you're thinking about or have gone through a little bit more life than you, who are more successful just in general. I think that the comfort zone keeps popping into my head. Like, get the F out of your comfort zone. Yeah.
Somebody's cursing.
He's like, dang it, I wanted to. I'm supposed to get to.
I think it's super unfortunate. I feel bad. Now, let me start with this. I think every generation thinks the generations below them are, lazy, or they think they're, they don't have it, and they blah, 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 or they, you know what I mean? But the generations before us, up until us and beyond, have made it more and more difficult in a lot of ways. Financially, if that's the conversation. When it comes to, there's a whole shift around going to college or not, right? I think the world is kind of awakening to whether or not that's necessary in every case. Who knows what AI is going to do for you guys, for us even, right? We still got some time left, right?
Hopefully.
So I think, the youngest generation, I think she's 100% right of find yourself. It's okay to make mistakes. I think too often we're so worried about getting it right out of the gate, and it's just not the case. Like, shoot big and miss, and shoot big again and miss, and shoot and miss and miss and miss. And you already, like with what you've done, right? You've learned so much, you've figured out so much just by doing it, taking action and trying, right? And we can woulda, shoulda, coulda ourselves all day, right? So it's better just to get out and mess up and trip and fall and try again. I think that's the only way to self-discovery. And then, like she said, be purposeful with who you surround yourself with. So the rooms you're in, the friends you have, the advice you're taking, right? Who are you getting advice or criticism from, right? Don't take criticism from people who aren't above you, who you wouldn't take advice from, right? If they don't have something you want or are some way you want to be, it's okay, right? They have their path, you have your path, it's okay. It's going to be okay. That's what I say to the young. It's going to be okay. Find a support group of people, not supportive as, oh yeah, your comfort zone's good. It's good for you to be lazy. It's okay to just sit and play video games all day. No, those are not your friends. They're not looking out for you. Sometimes, my friends will attest, like, I'll bully them into success. I'll bully them into being better people. Like,
Thank you.
That's right.
We were saying at CrossFit the other day, I've been bullied more into taking creatine and peptides than I have ever been into taking drugs.
Yeah, right? So true.
That's funny.
You tried this new creatine.
Best advice for parents?
I think our theme is parent on purpose.
yes. And start with the end in mind, right? Just like any success, you're trying to have it.
Yeah.
You're trying to build.
I think that's hard when they're little. But right now, with where the girls are in their age, that's like the focus. Like, we are preparing you to be functional, happy members of society. And that's fun because we get to point out the aspects, the traits, the habits that don't contribute to that, and they're very aware and they see it. So that's been fun. But when they're little, just be on purpose with how you interact with them. They're so much smarter than we give them credit for. They remember the things, they know what they can get away with, and if you let them, they will run over you. So I think that up until about like age 8 or 9, it's parent on purpose. And then from there forward, you can begin with the end in mind.
Well, I mean, when I said begin with the end in mind, even when they're young, it's if I say no to something for whatever reason, like we're big on like, I don't say no unless there's a reason for no, right? So I remember when Milan was a teenager, she wanted to go with her friends. And the only no was I just didn't want to go. I didn't want to do it. But I was like, well, there is no real no. So I had to do it, right? So even if it's inconvenient or whatever, if there's not a real no, then yes is the answer. And so with that being said, when I say no or when we say no to something, it has to stay that way unless information changes. And too often parents will succumb to the manipulation of the kid because they just want them to stop bickering or stop arguing or stop asking or stop, right? And they'll succumb. And then you've just opened Pandora's box, right? So consistency wins, right? But understand they're people. You're logical maybe more so than when they're little, but understand they're still people. They have feelings, they have desires, they have dreams, they have things they want to do, and so you have to kind of allow for that to happen for them, right? So you create boundaries, and for us, our boundaries are safety on one end and interfering with somebody else's life on the other, right? Like if you're going to interfere with somebody else, that's not okay. So that's it. Otherwise, we give a lot of rein. Right? But we're very consistent because if we did succumb to that manipulation when they're young and then they're a teenager and now I got to deal with it again and again all the way. No, that's so much harder. So if we ask them, hey, could you help us with, and we prioritize the team as our family is our team. So the team needs all the players on the team. And if one player is doing all the work, then the team it's turning on the team. It's not helping the team, And so they are very mindful of our team approach to a lot of stuff. And we don't often gender role the things as much as a lot of stuff. But it's the team gets it done.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
It's funny that you just said that last line because I was going to ask, what's the best advice you have for men, and then what's the best advice you have for women?
For men in general, adult men or young men, or
where we can do young men, young women.
Do you want to get started on this one?
I think that this one goes across genders is the most important decision you'll ever make. Is who your teammate is.
Yeah.
100%. You should know what you want, know what you don't want, and do not compromise. Yes, you will change as you grow, but as long as you're changing and growing together, then that is exponential. And that's just like a launch pad for your life together. So if you choose someone per se who doesn't meet some of those expectations or qualifications, I wouldn't go into it with this, well, they'll change, they'll grow. Because if you're growing at this rate and they're growing at this rate, you're still not on the same launch pad. So I think that goes across the board, men to women, no matter what. Your partner is the most important decision. Gosh, mine... we've spoken about this. I used to be really shy and very passive and very timid. And I have speculation for why I was that way for a long time. But he had this amazing ability to encourage me and push me without feeling overwhelming or suffocating. And that was really wonderful because it allowed me to grow and it allowed me to learn and become who I was meant to be without feeling like he was forcing it. And I don't really quite know how you did that, but you did it. And now you're paying the price for it. Right? So I think that it goes back to self. You only deserve someone who is good as you are. And if you are not doing the work to be your best self in terms of your finances, in terms of your personal growth and development, in terms of your health, then you don't deserve somebody who is doing those things. And so, yeah, they talk about what's your scale 1 out of 10? Like, no, it's what is the best version of yourself? Are you working towards that? And is this person also doing the same thing? So I guess for men, no, I don't know. I don't want to do the man one. You do that.
Like you.
I don't know.
We have been listening to a lot of podcasts recently about, like, specifically for men, specifically for women. It's been really eye-opening. Gosh, for women, man, I think it's all their inner dialogue. Is so control your thoughts and the world opens up. Because I think that is they must do a study on how many thoughts women have in their head each day. Sure. It's insane. It doesn't stop, right? And if they're negative, or if they're creating a bad story, or if they, negative is the word, then everything in your head and in your words comes out negative. Mm-hmm. So if I could give advice to women, it's have very clear and positive, stoic inner dialogue.
I like it.
How do you think they could get that?
It's what they listen to, what they consume, who they surround themselves with. And it's practice. It's daily, intentional practice.
I was going to say, I think you've told me before, like, when you notice you have a negative thought, think about, okay, why do I have that negative thought? What's a better way to phrase that in my mind? And then think that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think for men in general, as we come up, we need to make sure we have a tribe, a healthy tribe of peers that support us and, kind of have our back and things like that. Not that we need, like, girlfriend talk, like people to talk, like it's not necessarily that. It's almost like a quality time thing when it comes to just somebody there, right? Like, all right, I got this in case stuff. The other is really, like, seek out your best self. Right? Like, be very on purpose with trying to improve yourself, because young men, we have this, I'm going to be rich and I'm going to marry this girl and I'm going to do, what I mean? Maybe you think those things, but we're high thinkers in that way. And like she said, you have to earn it.
You always said, like, you were thinking of, like, the woman in the red dress and, like, having your list and finding that person and...
Yeah, okay, you want to go down that. So for me...
I just know that it's a common story for you.
So I had went through the divorce and bankruptcy a long time ago and realized I didn't know what I was talking about or what I was doing. And so I started voraciously reading books on love, on finance, on all the things that I had kind of, on mental stuff, on personal development in general. And so... one of the books that I got a hold of, or it wasn't even a book, it was a Tony Robbins infomercial audio that he had from way back, right? Personal Power, and I forget the other one, right? So I was, as part of that time in my life, I was going through these books and I listened to that thing, and he talked about essentially goal setting in all these areas of your life. And the goal setting when it comes to relationships is, what is your ideal, right? Like, what are your must-haves, and list them. And then what are your must-nots, and list them. So then when I go out into the world, it's essentially that red car effect, right? Maybe you're manifesting, but oftentimes it's like, oh, I see the thing I had been thinking about or looking for, this front of mind, right? And so this is a big part, is putting the stuff you want in front of your mind, right? The things you want to be thinking about, put it there. So for me, it was red car effect. And so as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, that's
But you
the
made
one.
a list.
I had made a list of all the things
And you were not willing, you were
No.
okay being...
That's it. I was ready to be alone forever and never have any kids again. And I had Milan, and I was like, I'm good. Like, that's it. Like, unless this happens, and you go through enough pain, if you would, and you realize, like, it's not worth it unless it's right, and it is the most important decision you can make, is who your partner is. And so I had realized that at that time. And so when she came across my view, I was like, oh, that's the one. And then our first date was essentially me interviewing her on all that checklist. Whether she realized it or not, it was me just going.
Question 1.
Yes. And I was joke, like, I forgot on my do not list or my must not list was student loan debt. Like, I missed that one.
Going back to the tribe, though, there was this podcast I listened to that spoke about how men, they have to have a tribe, and they have to do hard things together to feel self-worth. And if that's not the definition of jiu-jitsu, like, oh my gosh. Right. I heard that, and I was like, that is exactly why these men bond so well on the mats.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other, when it comes to men towards women, is, men need more so than anything respect, and women need more so than anything love. Now, it's not that we don't need the other, but as a primary. And so if we can kind of model that towards each other, and give the other person those things. And then, if we're going to get into that, like, know your love language, know their love language, know your secondary, try to have those kind of hard conversations that are uncomfortable because your parents never told you about it or whatever,
So, I mean, in summary, like, choose the right person.
100%.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's awesome.
My last question, because you got to finish up.
Okay.
Unless, do you have something?
I have one more after that, but you can go.
Okay. What are you guys working on right now?
That was my question too.
Oh, really?
Ourselves.
Yeah.
Ourselves. So this year for me is the year of the books. So reading mostly on finances, right? So this past year, 2025, was amazing. We bought this Airbnb and we just did the numbers. It did $1,000 in year 1.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So very cool, right? But I think that, again, in our businesses, whether it's the Academy, it's Monuments Best, it's the Airbnb, it's our parenting, it's our relationship, none of that can improve unless we improve. So we're always working on ourselves. I think for me, I would love for this year to have more freedom of time. Now, when you say free time, that doesn't mean to be lazy, right? It just means to be able to do the things that I want to do or work on the bigger projects.
That's good. Yeah, I think the other big thing, not that it's relevant as much, is just paying down a lot of debt, right? Not that we have, it's overwhelming, but it's just something that's new year, and I want to prioritize this year to get rid of, because I feel like it's more freeing without it.
Yeah.
Right. So this year is that for me.
Great.
Cool.
Great.
Well, we just want to thank you guys so much for talking to us. And more than that, we want to just express our gratitude for how thankful we are to have you guys in our life. This podcast wouldn't be a thing. None of what we're doing would be a thing.
None of what we're doing.
Yeah, so we really appreciate you guys for being the impetus for us to do anything.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, seriously, thank you guys.
You're very welcome. Well, you guys are our, what Milan likes to say is our experimental child, right? You guys are kind of our first round of, right, little projects that were like put out there, right? But you guys kept listening, and we kept sharing, and you kept listening and implementing, and that's all we ask, right? And so the fact that you guys are doing it for yourselves, we're excited to keep sharing as long as that goes.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest lessons you guys taught us was to stand on giants, and you guys are our giants, and we just try to take in every single thing that you guys say, because I mean, what you guys have is what we want for our lives. And so we're just so grateful that we can do this and learn from you more and more. And I hope we continue to do that.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thank
This was
you.
fun.
Thank you guys. We'll see you guys next week.